Collected Tales of a Dublin Doctor. This podcast is a series of tales written by my father, Patrick Beaufin, and rediscovered in a file at the back of a press 30 years after his passing. On Muenster cheese. Recently, in a supermarket in South County Dublin, I was admiring a display of Irish cheeses. Hard, soft, blue, cream, sheep's milk, goat's milk. We've come a long way from the crumbly red cheddar that formed the basis of the cheese sandwich in the post-war years. My musing was interrupted by the arrival beside me of a couple of middle-aged tourists. They spoke either German or Austrian. Suddenly, the woman became very excited and pointed. I caught one word that I recognised: Muenster. I debated with myself whether I should mind my own business, say nothing, and allow these good people to buy and be disappointed. They spoke no English, and I no German. I tried to explain to them that what they read and thought was Munster was in fact Munster, a mild cheese from the south of Ireland. They looked puzzled. Other shoppers began to pause and take an interest. Then I remembered my first encounter with Muenster cheese, and suddenly my problem was solved. I had been to a conference in Strasbourg. On the night before our return, my wife and I set out in the snow to find a restaurant away from the tourist beat. On the Bahnhofstrasse, near the great railway station, we came on a little restaurant with small tables, check tablecloths. The customers with napkins tied around their necks were obviously local. On the advice of the patron, we ordered a typical Alsatian meal, onion pie, followed by a dish of pieces of bacon, pork and locally made sausages on a vast bed of sauerkraut. With it we had a bottle of Sylvaner, the Alsatian rosé. There was no question of a pudding after all that, but the patron insisted that we try some of his cheeses. He recommended one, round with a very striking smell, much stronger than any blue cheese or even a ripe Port-Salut. It was magnificent. It was Muenster. On the following day, before setting out for the airport, with total disregard for customs regulations, we bought half a kilo of it. Had it firmly wrapped and sealed in a plastic bag, we arrived at the airport in a heavy snowstorm, checked in and waited. The weather got worse. Our flight was delayed. After a further 2 hours, the airport was closed. We arrived back in Dublin in the late afternoon of the following day, having stayed overnight in Brussels, had long taxi rides, plane connections, and traversing 3 airports. Always with us was the Muenster cheese, protesting its presence with its characteristic odour. People must have noticed, but they passed no comment. My wife and I stared ahead as if this great pungency was an everyday event. On landing in Dublin, we strode through the green nothing-to-declare lobby and were met by our son. As he put the cases in the boot of the car, he said what so many people had been too polite to say: "That's one hell of a smell." I remembered that as I turned to the lady in the supermarket. I took a piece of Munster cheese and sniffed it. I held it out to her. She sniffed it, and I replaced it. She shook her head sadly, smiled at me, and said, "Vielen Dank," and we went our separate ways.